Tonight we have a special guest here with me for a special Halloween 2020 series, Sports and Hip Hop with DJ Mad Max, St. John's University, WSJU Radio, the one and only Butch Patrick. Butch Patrick, how you doing tonight?
I am doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. I like the T-shirt, Bride of Frankenstein, as that's a classic Universal monster movie.
Yeah, and I'm just about trying to put on my new cap here that someone mailed. There we go. And oh, good. Back to the blue.
Yes. How are you doing during this whole pandemic and everything going on in the world right now?
You know, I'm very, very lucky that, number one, I came out to visit from Florida in the beginning of March to visit my sister. The 13th I got here. The 16th they locked down the state. So luckily for me, I was with family in a nice area, plenty of food in the fridge, and we just rode it out. So about 4 months into it, I started eking back out into the real world, started traveling, did my social distancing, and have actually weathered it fairly well. And I'm COVID negative, so I checked myself about a month ago, and everything's fine.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
And I just want to get into the beginning of you wanting to become an actor. What made you want to get into acting?
Well, actually, I didn't really want to become an actor. You're 7 years old and you're in the second grade. It wasn't like I was a child protege to be an actor. What happened was my little sister, they were looking at her to do some modeling just because she was a cute little girl. I went along for the ride, and after they were done taking her pictures, the gentleman, who was a very famous photographer in Hollywood, specializing in Hollywood composites, when you have your picture taken to submit to studios, he took a picture of me and he put it in his window in his studio, which happened to be on Hollywood Boulevard. And a producer and a director were walking by about a month later and noticed it, and they happened to be looking for new talent, new faces for their movie, and they sought me out. I went on an interview and I got the part.
Mm-hmm. What was the audition like for the Munsters?
Oh, the Munsters audition. I didn't audition for the Munsters. I was. They found me after they'd already hired somebody. The network said, "Well, we're not happy with the mom or the kid. Please recast the mother." And they brought in Yvonne DiCarlo. Yep. And the kid, me, I was living in Illinois with my grandmother, having just finished The Real McCoys. I went back there, so my agent convinced them to fly me in, and I went directly from the airport to the studio to the camera to do a screen test. And they hired me.
In the pilot episode, I know that you weren't in the pilot. It was a different Eddie Munster and a different Lily.
That's the one that I replaced. And
yeah.
Yes, and the other Lily, they thought was too much like Morticia and the Addams Family, so they replaced her as well.
And I think that was the best decision they made for the show.
I was happy.
I didn't like that first Eddie Munster. I didn't like him.
Yeah. Well, I had no idea that would be a life-changing day because, back then you would do a show and it would be on for a few years and you'd go on with your life, and nobody foresaw syndication, and they certainly didn't foresee a little 2-year show being it's way beyond the cult classic. It's very mainstream and heavily merchandised, and toys and collectibles and people. It's funny, a few months ago, I got a call from one of the big news outlets that the little deal that the father and son chat that Fred had with me after I had my beard about it's not what you look like, and it's not this and it's not that, it's the size of your heart and the strength of your character. 110 million views, and they were astounded that those words were so resonating because of all the crap going on in the world. It was nice to see a family value that withstood the test of time.
And it really was an interesting part of dialogue, especially for the time then, because you would have never thought that from certain people. You never thought that dialogue would be in that show during that time with everything with civil rights going on.
Well, what you did is you had the producers had done Leave It to Beaver, and they had the Universal Monster studio, which was very good at doing the effects and the lighting and the sets design, making it look like a movie set and the lighting and stuff. So they kind of put the two together and mashed them all up with the stars of Car 54 and Yvonne DiCarlo, a big movie star, and they put it all together, and it just you really couldn't foresee how good it was going to be or how bad it was going to be, but it turned out to be really well. It did very, very well, and it endured. That's the best thing.
Were you ever nervous because there was so much attention on you as a kid being in this big hit show?
No, it was funny. I just kind of it was kind of a hobby. It wasn't really a calling. It was more of I had a knack for it. I could remember lines, and I'd go to the studio. And then as soon as I came out the studio gates, I'm back on my Stingray or my skateboard or my mini bike, just being a kid.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like the first time you were actually on the set of the Munsters, when you first saw the set? Because it's just an amazing set.
That was very cool. Yeah, I used to love showing people around the set when they would come visit. Our
Oh,
Mac.
yeah, there we go.
Hello.
Yeah, we're good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm on my phone, as you know. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I would love showing people around the set. The first destination I would take would be Grandpa's Laboratory, because that was like the coolest set. And they actually used a lot of the props from the original Frankenstein 1931 laboratory.
Really?
We had a lot of really cool stuff. And then I would take people to go see the coffin phone booth, and then I would take them up the stairs to see the spinning coat of what am I thinking of? Our suit of armor, and then basically the living room. It would be pretty cool. People really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. And just seeing that equipment in Grandpa's laboratory, what were some of the equipment that they had down there?
So, yeah,
Okay, there.
the Grandpa's Laboratory. Well, the Jacob's ladders that they had, and just all and then just the set itself being built and the way it was done was just amazing.
Yeah, it was, and just interesting. I never knew that some of the equipment came from the original 1931 Frankenstein.
Yeah, studios never throw anything away.
How about Spot? I want to get into Spot. What was the prop used for Spot? Because I heard it was a dinosaur looking thing.
Yes, he was. He was basically used in a 1951 movie that was called The Lost World, and he was kind of like a T-Rex that they reused and refitted to be our pet underneath the stairs, hanging on wires with gas mains for flames and lit up eyeballs and a hinged jaw. So yeah, that was our pet. Was basically a dinosaur.
How did they get the fire effect to come out of Spot?
It was like flamethrowers, like gas mains, like lighting up a barbecue. Propane.
Yeah. Did the Raven clock ever annoy you?
No, no, nothing really annoyed me on that show. It was all a lot of fun. We had a lot of special effects going on. We had really good guys. Davey and Chuck were our special effects department, and I was told that they both went on to establish really good careers with Lucas and Spielberg, respectively. So I know that they were good at what they did.
What was it like the first time that you met Fred Gwynn and Al Lewis and, of course, Yvonne DeCarlo? There was actually two Maryland Munsters on the set for the show.
They were all very nice. They all had children about my age. They were all good with kids, treated me well. Fred, tall, obviously, a guy I looked up to, but very, very friendly and very talented, and wrote children's books and played music, and a real Renaissance guy. Al Lewis was kind of a child psychologist. I believe he had like a child psychology degree. Loved sports, loved to take time and throw the ball, treated me like his grandson. And mom was Lily was a great TV mom, even though she was made up and it was the Munsters, it was very much a lot like Leave It to Beaver or Donna Reed or Make Room for Daddy, the standard, TV mother matriarch shined through. And both Marylands, yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
Hot.
For the set as well, and the makeup on the set, I heard that Fred Gwynn had a difficult time with the makeup. He was always sweating. I heard he lost over 10 pounds.
Well, yeah, he was. It wasn't so much the makeup, it was the suit. It was the big foam rubber suit that he wore. The makeup itself, once you put it on, you actually kind of forgot about it. Touch-ups throughout the day. In the morning, it was a couple hours for Fred, an hour for me, and an hour and a half maybe for Al. But during the day, it was the wardrobes and the hot lights is what caused Fred the most discomfort.
Do you know why they called the show the Munsters?
There was a song. No, why did they?
I'm not sure. I don't know where they got the name from, because I was thinking, how come they didn't call them the Monsters?
Well, they couldn't call them the Monsters, so they came up with the Munsters. It was basically lovable monsters. And I think that actually there was a cartoon in the late 40s, early 50s that Bob Clampett had structured up for a series or a movie that had likable monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, all of the Universal monsters. And I think he may have coined the term the Munsters, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. And as you know, it was an acknowledgement for the Universal monsters at the time. You also had Uncle Gilbert and Cousin Lester.
Yeah, the Wolfman. They incorporated them all. Absolutely.
What was your favorite episode of all time on the show?
I had a few. I loved Hot Rod Herman because we got to go to the drag race and we introduced the second family car, the Dragula, which was very cool. I enjoyed Zombo with Louis Nye playing a TV host that I thought was a real guy, and I won a chance to go see him on television. Very disenchanted that he wasn't a real guy and everything was fake. Eddie's Nickname, where we talked about the speech that Fred gave about me losing my beard and learning lessons of life about values. There was a lot of good shows, but those three come. Herman the Rookie, the baseball episode, that was a good one. My stepfather was a professional baseball player, and he played the catcher in that, his one and only acting job. So that was fun.
My favorite episode's got to be the science fair when you bring the robot.
Tin Can Man, yeah, Boris.
Now, how did they build that robot for the episode?
The kid inside a robot. That was Rusty Stevens inside.
Oh, it was okay, yeah. Because I thought maybe they actually like built something. I didn't know that.
No, that was nothing like Robbie the Robot or nothing like the B9 on Lost in Space. It was an unfortunate kid who was stuck in there.
Mm-hmm. What was surprising to me was that the show only lasted 2 years. Now, I've heard that it was because of the ratings with Batman. Is that true?
That is correct. Yeah, it's all about ratings in Hollywood. You know, you're good until, it's like until somebody else comes along, the new kid in town. We were good. We defended our rights through 3 different shows they put up against us that we conquered them all. But Batman was the one that got us.
I just don't understand how, because now you have a ton of shows in today's day and age. How come you couldn't coexist with each other just for so long?
There was only 3 channels back then. Yep.
Yeah, it's different times.
TV Guide, no internet, no cable, no streaming. It was just 3 channels in most parts of the country.
Later on, I know after the show ended that they tried to potentially create a new series, just restart it up. What was it, the 80s, right?
Yeah, they did that for 3 years. It was called the Munsters Today.
Yeah. And it didn't work out. You weren't going to be in it.
No, it did work out. It was on 3 years. It was very popular. And they did about 80 some odd episodes. So yeah, it was successful.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that because I thought it was a movie and then it never panned out.
No, that was Mockingbird Lane.
Okay.
That was about 7 or 8 years ago. They did that. They did Munster's Revenge was a movie. Munster Go Home was a movie. Here Come Scary Little Christmas was a movie. And the Munsters Today, Here Come the Munsters. Anyway, there was 3 movies, 1 series, and 1 recent Mockingbird Lane where they tried to resurrect it again. And they had Bryan Singer, who directed X-Men as the director, and they had Brian Fuller, who produced and wrote Pushing Daisies and Dead Like Me. And they had A-list people in it. Jerry O'Connell, Portia de Rossi, Eddie Izzard, but yet it still did not get the green light to go ahead. And they spent $10 million on it.
Yeah. I don't think it worked out is because you are always going to look back and say that it's never going to be like how it originally was.
Yeah, probably not. That's we were lucky. We set the bar pretty high.
You need the original 5 characters. And when Beverly Owens left the show, how did you adjust to Pat Priest? Was it an easy adjustment?
Yeah, no, it was easy. Pat walked right in. She did a great job. And we just continued on. And it was a very easy transition.
What do you love most about going to conventions and just seeing the fans from all different generations, from even younger people than me as I'm 21, just seeing younger generations who are inspired and love this show, The Munsters?
Well, you said it right there, the fans. It's all about bringing smiles to people's faces and the memories that these people come up and say they used to watch it with their grandparents or their favorite uncle, or they'd run home from school and this would be their favorite go-to show. Or I had one girl that said she had a lot of bouts with depression as a little girl, and I was her like only friend at times, and it got her through some tough spots. So those kind of stories make you feel pretty good that you were an extended part of a lot of people's family that you never met.
What was your relationship outside of the show with the main cast, Yvonne DiCarlo, Fred Gwynn, and Al Lewis, and Pat Priest?
Didn't have one. Hollywood is, you go in to be a TV family. It is a job. And afterwards, I became friends with them later in life, as I became an adult. And when I was in my 30s, I reconnected and we're still friends, at least, until they passed away. But at the time, no, they go back to New York and I go back to school, and everybody just goes on their merry way. And it's very much like that in Hollywood. Until you work together again, it's just a series of temporary jobs.
How were you able to balance out being in school and acting as Eddie Munster?
They supply you with a tutor, and you have to go to school 3 hours a day or you can't work.
Oh.
Very rigid.
And you've also been in a famous show, Lidsville. That was big.
That was Sid Marty Krofft. Yeah, that was my summer of 71. I turned 18 doing that show. And that was pretty much my last real regular working thing, because I didn't really want to continue into business. I wanted to be a race car driver and drive a funny car. Didn't quite work out, but that was probably my last big show that what I would consider to be something that was a regular working job. I did some parts, single episodic guest starring roles, a couple of movies after that, but that was pretty much summer 71 was pretty much my last hurrah, so to speak. So I worked from 60 to 71.
Well, how was the experience of working with Lidsville compared to the Munsters? What did you enjoy about it most?
I was working with a lot of friends of mine and the little hat people that I had met over the years who were my stand-ins. I really enjoyed working with them. I got to know Billy Hayes very well. Charles Nelson Riley was a lot of fun. I was working at Paramount. I liked that studio a lot. So we were out there. The Bradys were filming at the same time, and I knew all those guys. So it was kind of nice to sort of just see people that you were familiar with, that you grew up with, and then work with some new faces. And then the Sid and Marty Krofft, I was a fan of their work. And we're still friends today.
What was your reaction the first time in Eddie Munsters? You're a cultural icon because of that. It's brought up in The Lost Boys, the attack of Eddie Munster. What was your reaction the first time you heard that?
Oh, that's always funny. And there's been a lot of references to that. Roseanne, the Eddie Munster character has definitely been referred to a lot as a reference point for kids that have a strange look about them, or they're getting into trouble. And that same Lost Boys, they also had a poster on the wall of their lair of Munster Go Home.
Mm. I do remember that, as that's one of the classic movies from the 80s. Were you able to keep any props from on set?
No, not at the time. I brought home one of my little suits. I used to bring home ears and stuff and headpieces from Fred, but I'd give them away to people. A few years later, they gave me the Woof Woof doll. The prop man had saved it for me, so I got that when I was about 18. I was out doing an Ironside, and he gave it to me. But no, not too many props. I have a few now, but I've been picking them up at conventions when I go out and do this and do that. And some people have retained some stuff for me and offered them to me, so that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was wondering, where's the Wolf doll?
Well, now you know.
There you go. Why don't you think we don't get sitcoms like we used to, such as the Munsters and the Addams Family? How come we don't get that anymore nowadays? Because I think people would love it. We all go back and watch it from the past. How come we don't get it today?
Well, TV is a reflection of society. So whatever the real world's doing at the time is what goes out on the air, unless you're doing a period piece movie or a period piece series, like Deadwood or something. But usually it's whatever you're watching is a reflection of everyday life. Now, true, in the 60s they were doing a lot of escape, talking horses, genies and witches and Munsters and this and that. So the comedic flavor and the tone of the country was so much different that things were simpler and things were a lot slower paced, and television was still the magic new invention. Even though it was about 30 years old at that time, it was still in black and white, and it was still somewhat new, and it was a simpler time. And it just resonates that the shows like that were made. But that's why nostalgia channels today do so well, because people still like to revert back to it, and older people like to share it with their grandkids. And I have a lot of fans that come up to the table when I meet them, and they've watched it with their families, and they've been introduced to it, and they love it. Once they get past the black and white thing and they understand it, they really seem to enjoy it. So I think we'll be around for another 20 or 30, 40 years, no problem. Longer than I'll be here.
As before, we were talking about the pilot was in color. Why did they choose to stick with the black and white, or to move to black and white per se?
They couldn't. There was no broadcasting in color. Every TV station was broadcasting in black and white. It didn't go to color till '66.
And Batman was in color.
That was the
And
first. Oh, that and Family Affair were like the first two shows to be broadcast in living color.
you think there would have been any way for the Munsters to revert back to color like the pilot and compete with Batman again, or you think that was it? That's just the Munsters. Just they had to stay in black and white.
I think it was better in black and white, and I think at the time they were considering it, but they decided to make Munster Go Home instead, the movie in color. And I think Fred and Al were ready to go back to New York. The scripts were getting a little thin. Ratings were down. Cost of going to color. Who was going to pick up the tab? There was a lot of contributing factors to it, but the combination of low ratings, cost, and everything else I just mentioned, I think it was just time to call it a day.
Mm-hmm. Something that always wonders me is that it used to be on TV Land a lot when I was younger. Now it's never on TV Land. It's on what network is it? Cozy, I think it's called.
Yes, it is.
It's on Cozy. Do you know why? Just because I know you probably get royalties off of that,
No,
right?
that was a contract done in the 60s, and it had nothing to do with anything today. They altered that contract in the early 70s, but it wasn't a retroactive thing. So no, it's just because basically TV Land and Nickelodeon have gone to newer programming. They started off with Andy of Mayberry and the Munsters and all kinds of great black and white shows, but they quickly, it's like MTV when it came on the air. You're a young guy, you weren't even around, but when MTV first came on the air, it was all music all the time, and within 2 years, it was full of commercials.
That's the thing. Just remembering coming home from kindergarten and watching the Munsters. I mean, you used to watch all these shows: the Andy Griffith Show, Leave It to Beaver, Gilligan's Island, I Love Lucy. Now you don't get that anymore.
Yeah, you do get them. You just have to look around for MeTV or Decade TV or Antenna TV or Cozy TV. They're out there.
Yeah. I just wish TV Land used to be how it was, because now you turn it on, it's the mainstream shows.
Yeah, well, luckily that's why you have other alternatives to go find them. Thank God.
You're wearing a Bride of Frankenstein shirt, which I complimented you in the beginning of the show. What's your favorite Universal monster movie?
Creature of the Black Lagoon.
And why that one?
Because it strikes me as something that could really be believable. You know, you could go into the Amazon and you could find some guy that's some kind of a cross between a man and a salamander or a alligator or whatever the hell he was, and you know, he could be living in, you know, amphibious lifestyle in and out of the water, and yeah, it's like a believable hybrid to me.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the original Frankenstein, and I do like all the original. The Invisible Man's one of my favorite too. I really like the Invisible Man.
Claude Rains played a great part.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff. Jekyll and Hyde. There's a lot of good old movies.
How do you feel about how horror has changed over the years?
Not a big fan. Not a big fan of blood and guts. I still like a good suspense thriller. I like Hitchcock, old Hitchcock. You know, The Shining. Some of the Stephen King books are okay, but I'm pretty much a fan of the old school.
Yeah, I like the old school as well. How do you feel about a film like Halloween? Because it's not that blood and guts, but some people think it is. There really isn't a lot of blood in that film.
Yeah, you know, Wes Craven, yeah, the old George Romero and Wes Craven stuff. Yes, they're okay. You know, it's not bad. There's the franchises. I mean, I know all the guys that do those scary movies. You know, Robert Englund and Kane Hodder and Tony Moran and Mike Myers. It's interesting that they have these series of these movies that have done so well that people like to go and get scared. I'm not a big fan of horror movies. My sister loves them. I'm not. So I'm more of a comedy guy, or a sort of like a James Bond. I love the James Bond series of movies, so that kind of thing. But everybody's got their own choice, and if you like scary movies, it's there's a ton of them.
Yeah, there is. What are some of your favorite comedy shows from today?
From today? Oh goodness, from today. I'm more of an animation guy. I like Bob's Burgers, and I watch reruns of Seinfeld, and 2.5 Men's pretty good. I like Frasier. I loved Frasier when it was on. Kind of like the Cheers was good. I wasn't a fan of Friends, but I know I have watched them, and it is well written and it's funny. So yeah, you know.
Do you have any upcoming conventions? I know despite the COVID-19 pandemic, I have heard, because I had Kane Hodder on my show a few weeks ago, and he told me that he had a convention coming up.
Yeah, he just did Mad Monster Party in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I actually he sent me a video, and it was really, really, I got some passes for some friends of mine in Phoenix, and they sent me pictures. And it looked like it was pretty sparsely done, but the spacing was such that we had a double table from the fans and this and that. So no, I'm going to, I've done this year, I've done 2 pilots, 2 movies, 1 car show, July 4th, and I'm going to be going out next week for 3 weeks, the final 2.5 weeks of Halloween season. And then I've got a thing in the middle of November. So it's starting to get back into the swing of things. What I'm going to do next year is I'm working with an illusionist named David Merlin, and we have a new Blu-ray Munster Go Home that I did commentary for with Rob Zombie. And we're going to show the movie, and then we're going to take a break and do the meet and greet in the auditorium in the lobby while he's setting up his illusion. And then he'll do an evening of magic that features 2 Munster illusions mixed in with his other 60 minutes of magic. And we're going to go on the road and do that at theaters around the country, kind of like a residency. And we're looking forward to doing that. That's going to be fun. And a lot of the theaters that have been shut down for a whole year can really use something to jumpstart them back into business.
Yeah, they took a major hit with this pandemic this year.
Everybody did. But I've survived it very well. I've been very, very lucky. A lot of people haven't been so lucky. I know friends that haven't worked all year. It's been tough.
What was it like working with Rob Zombie?
He's cool. Rob's great. I love Rob.
Mm-hmm.
He loves the Munsters. I love him.
Yeah, and he loves the Munsters because you had the scene where Bill Moseley was watching it with the grandfather in House of a Thousand Corpses.
And he did Dracula, on his. He told me I'll be in. He's gonna cast me into his next movie. So I'm looking forward to see what he's got up his sleeve for me.
Yeah, something that I respect about Rob Zombie is he always pays homage to the classic movie actor, especially in the horror genre, or even the comedy horror movie genre. Michael Berryman was in The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
There's so many great acknowledgments and respect that he pays to the classic actors.
Yes, I'm looking forward to working for him. It'll be great.
Has he told you what the movie may be about?
He has not. He just said, I would love to work with you, and we'll be working in the future. And he left it open-ended.
Do you ever see in a Munsters reboot series ever working out? In my mind, I don't see it. Yeah.
No, it's been done and it's been tried. And it's a compliment, flattery is imitation is the highest form of flattery. So, but literally, I think it's been done probably for the last time, but then again, who knows?
Was there ever that secret competition, I'm assuming there was, between the Munsters and the Addams family?
No, we were on Thursdays. They were on Fridays. Had we been head to head, that might have been a different story, but it actually worked out. It worked out well for both of us because whether you preferred one or the other, you probably watched us both. So we were good for each other's existence.
What's your most memorable moment of being on the Munsters?
Probably the final scene of the movie, Munster Go Home, when we actually were leaving Munster Hall in the Munster coach. And it was the last, not very often we actually shoot the last scene of the script as the last scene in production. It usually doesn't work out that way, but it just so happened the last day of the last shoot of the last scene happened to be the real deal. And it was very surreal driving away and knowing that, taking off the ears for the last time. And it happened to be the final scene of the movie, which was like the end of the deal. The era is over. Everybody, that's a wrap, literally forever. That was kind of pretty cool. That was very unusual.
You've accomplished a lot in your life, and I know that something I heard in the interview is that you want to interview people.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing next year. I'm going to be traveling in my RV with my Munster coach. I'm doing a YouTube channel called Coach to Coast, which is basically interviewing people about their lives, what brought them to where they are today, meeting me in this theme park or in this RV park, and sharing the subscriber base with them. They go home, they tell their friends. I do my thing. I go on the road, do my bucket list, visit people, have fun, get a Rolodex full of new friends, and at the same time expose what it's like the American dream, American culture, patriotism, all into a nice little, wrapped up show that hopefully will then get enough subscribers to make me money, and that then I can then take it on the road next year to go international with it and go see some of the sites that I want to see. I got a couple more continents I got to see. and a couple more places I want to do. And then hopefully this whole new YouTube channel thing, monetizing it. I have a friend who's very, very successful at it, and I give him all my footage, and then he produces it and edits it and puts the music to it and wraps it all up. And I'm looking forward to doing that because it's something I can control.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be looking forward to that. Is it something that you want to take this channel of yours and get it back on TV? You want to get back on TV?
Not my intent, but you never know. I do know that's where TV looks for content. So if I have a very successful YouTube channel on Amazon or Netflix, or somebody comes to me and says, we want to buy it from you, keep up what you're doing. Oh, hey, we can negotiate. You bet. As long as we keep control.
I think people would love to see that, especially in the coach. That would be very interesting.
Oh, I'm looking for, when I pull into an RV park with my Munster coach, believe me, people are going to be looking at it. And then once I get to know them over the barbecue and ask them if I could interview them for my new channel, I don't think I'm going to have any problem getting interesting people. And it's also going to be occasional. I'll throw in an occasional celebrity in there as well, just to keep it interesting.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I talked to you on the phone, you were telling me how Al Lewis's favorite basketball team for college was St. John's.
Yeah, he was a big. Yeah. Well, he was actually on the payroll for several NBA teams. Finding college talent. He was very good at it, and yes, and St. John's was one of his favorites.
Yeah, I think that we're loving to hear that right now because I never knew that. I never knew that he was a scout. I knew he was involved with politics,
sports, politics, and his restaurant. Those were his big three, and his comedy club. He was very, he was very much a politician. He was very much an activist. He had a radio show, and, the TV, the comedy, the restaurant. The restaurant was owned by the Gotti family. He was connected with the boys. And he was a well-rounded individual.
He was. He really was. And I just want to thank you for coming on my show here tonight.
Sorry, I was a little late.
No problem. Is there anything else that you would love to let the audience know, or anything else?
I'll tell you what, if you could go to Munsters.com, which will lead you to everything I do. Coach to Coast YouTube channels listed there. But main thing is, if you're looking for me, go to Munsters.com. It's easy to remember, and everything is listed there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any upcoming merch or Munsters collectibles coming out? Because I know I used to collect them when I was younger, the Diamond Select ones.
That I'm not in that loop, but the licenses are always reissued. There's always new stuff out. Go on eBay. There's so many thousands of things listed. It's amazing. I also have a new show I'm working with. It's not on the air yet, but it's called Toy Scout, with a gentleman who's the biggest Disney collector in the world, who goes around the country with me. It's like American Pickers, but for toys, and it's called Toy Scout. So keep an eye out for that. And then I also did a pilot for TV Dinners, which features old timers like myself and Kathy Garver, having recipes for old TV dinners updated to modern healthy diets.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of diets, it just came to mind the Cheerios commercial that you shot.
Yeah.
What was that like? Just seeing that become a commercial.
Like a bowl of cereal.
Seeing the Munsters in a commercial was huge.
Yeah, we did a lot of interesting stuff. We did specials for Marine Land of the Pacific. Fred Gwynn did a lot of guest starring roles on various nighttime shows. Danny Kaye's show, Jackie. I think he was on the Jackie Gleason show, but he did a lot of stuff. But we were all over the place back then. We were very successful. Icons,
and you guys always will be. Butch Patrick, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I had a great time, and I want you to take care and stay safe. And I look forward to what you have coming in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
No problem.